morning everybody and welcome to the JSMS Pride. A couple of weeks ago we decided to start a new segment called The Truth. Well, after a lot of deliberation, Zach and I decided we're going to change the name of it because we really didn't want it to come off as a negative spin on things. That wasn't really the intention. The intention was really just give you a little bit of inside look behind the other side. So we're going to call it The Other Side, which makes perfect sense. So this week what we actually want to talk about is why it's not necessarily a good thing to always assume that it's easy to come into the car business. We have a lot of new hires that come in a lot of the time, and when they interview, I tend to try and talk them out of coming in if they've never been in the car business before. And here's a couple of reasons why. A lot of people have this opinion that it's easy to come in, make money, go home, and it's all fine and dandy. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not quite that simple. So I want to start off with 5 reasons, or the top 5 reasons, why the car business isn't really for everybody. I'm not saying that it isn't good to be in this business. It really is. I've made a good career out of it and a lot of other people have. But there are 5 real reasons why you don't necessarily want to consider this as an easy job, let's say. Number 5. One of the biggest things that a lot of people don't understand when they first come in the car business is the hours. The hours are extremely long and it can be extremely tiring at times. Even though it's not a physical job, the hours can be really hard on people. But let me touch on something else. I think it's really also the sacrifices that you have to put in when it comes to the hours, and not just that, when it comes to a lot of things in the car business, but the reason I wanted to use the word sacrifice is because hours here are really based around schedule that gives the floor coverage. But when it comes down to hours for you as a salesperson, it's actually non-stop. It's really 24 hours because when you're outside work, you've still got to respond to customers. You've still got to reach out to customers. You've still got to advertise yourself outside. You've still got to remember that you are really a representative for Lou Hughes or any other car dealership for that matter, whilst you're outside work at the same time. So hours are really one that a lot of people tend to not take into consideration. Number 4, and one of the toughest ones, is the constant change. The car industry as a whole changes on a dime. A lot of people think that it really stays around. The basis does. The foundations of what we do stays the same, but it's a constant change. The markets change, the way we advertise change, the processes we put in place would change. There's just so much change, and a lot of people don't take into consideration how much change really happens on a daily basis, weekly basis, or even a yearly basis. So a couple of examples about change that I really wanted to touch on was one, obviously COVID-19 changed the world for everybody in many different ways, but for the car business, we had to try and find a way to sell vehicles virtually. Well, there's a lot of things you can do virtually, but car sales is not really one of them in my opinion. And here's why. A lot of people decide to buy a vehicle on an emotional decision, and it's hard to get an emotional decision when you are not touching and smelling and feeling and experiencing that specific item. So it's been really tough in that area. So that was a big change that we had to do. And in fact, it actually showed how versatile the car industry is, that we didn't really get affected that much by COVID-19, but it's because we were able to adapt and change very quickly. And hence the reason why change is really big on that list. The next example I have is really just the limited supply of vehicles currently. You know, usually we'd have 400 cars on the lot. People would come in, take a look at the car, show them around it, and they could pick off a variety of vehicles. Right now, that's not the case. So we've had to adapt to the way things are with vehicles right now, and the way that they are not readily available. We're either selling a used vehicle or we're having to order a vehicle, and that's a lot of change that happens on a daily basis. Number 3. So why do we all go to work? We all go to work for money. I assure you, money does not come easy for the new salespeople. It just never does. You don't have a client base, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have the processes down yet, you don't know the knowledge of the vehicles yet. There's so many things that go into what makes a successful salesperson that this is just a really, really hard one. People just assume they're going to come in, make a bunch of money off the bat, and that's really not the case. Number 2, as I mentioned in the third one about knowledge, breadth of knowledge is high up there on my list. A lot of people have no idea when they first come into the car business the amount of information that you are required to know. Not just the vehicles, like obviously we have so many different types of vehicles, models, trims, packages, etc. You got to learn all those. Processes, paperwork, the way we do things, the way we advertise, the way you sell. There are so many different things, and as we deal with humans, there are so many different things that work differently with different people. So the breadth of knowledge, just generally speaking, it has to be so vast, and a lot of people don't expect that when they first come in. And it is a big shock to the system when people come in and go, oh my, I didn't realize I had to know all this. Number one, and this is a big one on my list purely because it's very close to my heart, but the psychology side behind the car industry as a whole and selling. Psychology really is a very big thing in our industry, just purely based on the way we deal with customers. But why it's such a negative thing for a salesperson is to hear the word no on a regular basis and get, I guess, the way you look at it is get knocked back so much on a daily basis, not only just from the customer, but from the sales managers, the people that their peers, the people that are trying to train them, all these things. It's such a hard business in the beginning, and you have to get such thick skin. So psychology is such a large thing that really affects a lot of people when it comes to the car business. Thanks for watching this week, guys. I hope you appreciate where we're trying to come from and trying to give you a little bit of an extra side and the other side like we mentioned. As always, I'm going to stick up a video up on this side. I'm going to put my subscription on this side and the Lufuse Ford subscription up in the top, and I'll see you all next week.